Hello everyone, make yourself comfortable. As a part of Civilspedia program, today we will be looking at 17th August current affairs. In the prelims topics, we will be looking at various topics like Turkish economic crisis and the scheme of Iseman Bharat, what are the various provisions of Iseman Bharat, and lastly we will be looking at the details of Polavaram Project. Coming to the first topic, Turkish economic crisis. As you all might have been aware of, Turkish currency lira has lost a fifth of its value over the period of last week. And in this topic, we look at what are the reasons why Turkish currency has lost so much of its value and what are the wider ramifications of this undervaluation. Coming to the first part, what are the reasons why it has so much of its value? There are two primary reasons for that. The first one is mainly due to diplomatic spat between Turkey and America. And the next one is with regards to economic factors within Turkey. Coming to the first part, the diplomatic spat between Turkish and America, why they are fighting between each other. Turkey has detained an American pastor named Andrew Brunson, mainly due to the reason that they are accusing Andrew Brunson of being an American spy and trying to undermine the government of Turkish president. For that reason, they have detained this pastor. And America, as a retaliatory measure, is threatening to impose number of economic sanctions on Turkey, as a result of which investments into Turkey has seen a subsequent decline. And the next one is with regards to economic factors within Turkey. So whenever we talk about why countries' currency is declining in international market, there are two primary reasons. The first one is decrease of value in the country's own currency, and the next one is strong demand of dollar. So coming to the first part, why a country's currency will see a subsequent decrease in value, it is primarily due to inflation. If you look at Turkey's inflation, the inflation in July was more than 15%. Since inflation is very high, the Turkish currency has seen a subsequent decrease in value. That is one primary reason. And the next one is with regards to strong demand of dollar. There are two primary reasons for having a strong demand of dollar. The first one is due to high current account deficit. And the next one is due to high interest rates in US government. In Turkish economy in recent years, current account deficit is widening further and further. And with regards to since US Federal Reserve has hiked their recent interest rate, US dollar has seen a subsequent increase in demand in international market. So due to all these reasons, Turkish currency has seen a devaluation. Now, as a later part of this topic, we look at what are the wider ramifications of this devaluation on two countries, that is India and developing countries. And later part, we will look at what is the impact on developed countries. Coming to the India and developing countries part, as a result of Turkish currency devaluation, India's currency has also seen a subsequent devaluation as well. That's why India's currency has risen up to 70 or 71 rupees per dollar. And the next one is the impact on other developed countries. As a result of Turkish decreasing currency value, the investments in Turkey is getting decreased further because number of European companies cannot get their returns back. So that's the reason many countries are not investing in Turkey. Moving on to the next topic, Iseman Bharat. In this topic, we will be looking at what are the specifics of this scheme and why we need this scheme. Moving on to the first part, what this scheme is all about. The first one is, it's basically an insurance scheme. It's basically an insurance scheme for health coverage, and it provides coverage of almost 5 lakhs for all the members in the family. It's an insurance scheme. It provides 5 lakhs coverage, and it provides insurance coverage for all the members in the family. Moving on to the next part. Who are all the persons who are getting covered under this scheme? All the existing members under Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana and other similar schemes are getting covered under this Iseman Bharat. It is estimated that almost 10 crore population will be covered under this scheme, and it will be later expanded to include almost 50 crore of Indian population. Moving on to the next part, why we need this scheme in the first place? It is estimated that Indians on average spend 3/4 of their expenditure on health expenses by means of out-of-pocket expenditure. Since most of the expenditure is most of the health expenditure is met out of pocket, it is estimated that almost 5.5 million people in India are thrown below poverty line, mainly due to healthcare expenses. For that reasons, we need to put adequate insurance mechanisms in place so that we can adequately cover these poor people. And the last one is, who will decide the premium rates in this scheme? It is a state health agency in consultation with the insurer and the implementing hospital for the first 3 years. After these 3 years, the insurance agency will primarily decide the premium rates. Coming to the last prelims topic of today, we will be looking at Polavaram Project, and as a part of this topic, we will be looking at what are the details of this project and what are the concerns associated with this project. Coming to the first part, what are the details of this Polavaram Project? It is basically an interlinking of river project, wherein a part of water from Godavari river is getting transferred to Krishna river. So now by transferring this water from Godavari to Krishna, it is estimated that they can combat drought prone situations in districts like Rayalaseema and Andhra Pradesh. Now if this scheme being executed well, this project can make the state drought free forever. It is estimated like that. Now as is with number of interlinking projects, there are number of concerns as well. The first one is people displacement. So when they are constructing canals which transfers water from Godavari to Krishna, obviously people will be displaced. But if you look at the socio-economic status of people who are getting actually replaced, they are very poor and vulnerable. Since they are displaced, they lose out their livelihoods, as a result of which these people are thrown into poverty. And the next one is, since these canals will be traversing through a number of sites like archaeological sites, wildlife sanctuaries and coal deposits, we can pretty much expect that all these areas will be submerged, as a result of which we can lose a significant economic value as well as environmental value as well. So that's it with regards to prelims topic. We will move on to the main topics. Coming to the in-depth analysis topic of today we will be looking at flood management. As you all might have been aware of, Kerala is currently experiencing one of the worst natural disasters in recent memory. So as a part of that, today we'll be looking at flood management. In this topic, we'll be looking at various aspects like, first, what are the causes of flood in India, and what is the cost that is associated with flood in India, and lastly, we'll look at what are the ways by which we can mitigate flood in India. So this is a cartoon which shows the extent of the situation that Kerala is facing. Moving to the first part. So when we talk about cause of flood in India, it can be classified into two broad categories. The first one is natural causes and the next one is man-made causes. Coming to the first part, natural causes of flood in India. So it's obvious that heavy rainfall causes flood in India. But when you talk about India, India receives almost 80% of its rainfall during these 3 months, that is in monsoonal months. But if you compare that rainfall that certain pockets of India receive, it's almost comparable to the annual rainfall that certain equatorial regions receive. This shows the extent of rainfall that India receives during these 3 months. So even if there is a slight increase in that rainfall, it causes a devastating floods. And the next one is with regards to siltation. So when river water is moving from mountainous regions to plain regions, it tends to carry sand and dirt along with that. Now this sand and dirt tends to get accumulated as a form of silt over the period of time. Now as it gets accumulated, river banks get shallower and shallower, and it tends to expand area wise. Now it causes flood situation. And the next one is climate change. Now, people tend to bias to think that climate change always causes drought situation, but that's not entirely accurate. What climate change creates is that it reduces the number of normal years of rainfall. Like for example, if in a 10-year period of time, if a country is getting 7 years of normal rainfall, due to the impact of climate change, that 7 years of rainfall will get reduced to 3 or 4 years. What climate change will actually do is that it increases the externalities of rainfall. That increases the incidence of flood situation. It also increases the incidence of drought situation. That's what climate change creates. Not only that, people tend to think that after climate change, almost all parts of the world will experience a uniform rise in temperature. But that's not entirely accurate. It is true to say that on average, the world temperature will rise to say about 2 or 3 degrees Celsius. But not all places in the world will experience a temperature rise. For that reasons, many scientists are trying to avoid the usage of term global warming and try to move towards climate change. That's it with regards to climate change. Moving on to the man-made causes, the first one is pretty apparent: deforestation. So, as you all might have known, trees are natural barriers against flood waters. It pretty much can slow down the movement of rainwater, and they can absorb some rainwater as well. And there are a number of reasons why deforestation is happening, mainly due to overpopulation, deforestation for industrial expansion, all those reasons. And the next one is, this point is fairly confined towards urban areas. Construction of buildings so that it obstructs the natural flow of rainwater and it creates a flood-like situation. And the last one is obstruction to free flow of rivers, mainly due to the construction of man-made structures like dams, barrages, railways, roadways. Now, these reasons can cause flood-like situations. Moving on to the next part, what is the cost that is associated with flood in India? The first one is economic cost. The economic cost can be plentiful. The first one is damage to public buildings and houses, and the next one is loss of earning in industry and trade because due to the leave that is being extended, and the next one is loss of earning to petty shopkeepers and workers, loss of employment for daily wage earners. This flood will be dire on daily wage earners because they are losing out their needy salary, and the next one is loss of revenue due to road, railway, transportation interruption, and the last one is high prices for essential commodities. So these are the economic costs that is associated with flood. Moving on to the human cost, as you all might have known, flood will obviously take a toll on human lives. That is a human cost that is associated with flood. And the next one is environmental cost. Flood not only takes a toll on human lives, it also takes a toll on wildlife as well. And not only that, it also destroys the habitat of wildlife. So this is the environmental cost that is associated with flood. And the next one is disease outbreak. This is an after event of flood. That is, after the flood recedes, there will be a disease outbreak. Number of diseases like malaria, cholera, diarrhea, all these diseases will be outbreak after the flood situation. Coming to the last part, what are the ways by which we can combat this flood situation? This is fairly confined towards preventive measures. The first one is predicting monsoon. We have to accurately predict monsoon so as to warn people adequately so that they can be moved from their homes to relief camps. Not only that, we can predict monsoon by usage of technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, and quantum computing. So by usage of these technology, we can accurately predict monsoon. We can improve the predicting of monsoon. And the next one is cleaning of drains and rivulets so as to clean them of silts so that river water can flow freely. And the next one is advanced town planning. When you think about urban planning in India after independence, the urban areas tend to be are expanding in a very unplanned manner so that they can abstract the free flowing of river water. So now after this, we have to expand our towns in a very planned manner so as to not abstract the free flowing of river. And the next one is rainwater harvesting structures. Now this will not entirely prevent the flood-like situation, but this tend to transfer some of the rainfall to underground water table so that it can mitigate flood water to a certain extent. And the next one is flood control as a subject has no clear legislative marking. So in India, when it comes to disaster management, it is managed by Disaster Management Act, which was passed in 2005. Now this is a very generic act. It doesn't specifically deal with flood-like situation. Now after the impact of climate change, the floods will occur more often. For that reasons, we have to prepare a separate legislation so that we can deal in flood eventuality, so that we can prepare rules and guidelines which can put up an adequate mechanism in place so as to ensure a better coordination between state governments, central governments, armed forces and disaster management authorities so that we can improve flood governance better. So that's it with today. Thank you.